have approval of the minutes. Have y'all reviewed them? We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mary Ann
Second.
moved. Jill seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Right now, we'll see if there's any citizen communication, if anybody wants to approach the microphone. Seeing none, we will carry on with development reviews and formal action.
Good evening. The first item we have for development review and formal action is the Texan subdivision. The applicant has submitted a preliminary plat and a final plat for a 5.9 acre tract located at the corner of Zach Lynn's Parkway and North Main Street. The owner is proposing to plat the property into a C1 commercial lot. With that plat, there will be a small sanitary sewer line extension along the northeast property line of the property, tying into an existing sanitary sewer line. Water is existing, streets are existing, and the drainage is in accordance with the master drainage plan. Staff does recommend approval of both the preliminary plat and final plat, finding that it is in compliance with all applicable regulations.
I have a question. Is any consideration given for traffic prior to, as part of the public work review process?
We do not have regulations that require any sort of traffic impact studies. We do have a driveway ordinance that regulates where driveways can be located that can affect traffic, of course, on nearby roadways. But in this case, this property is located adjacent to roadways that are controlled by TxDOT, and so TxDOT driveway regulations would then apply, which are much stricter than the city's local driveway regulations.
Well, I understand the driveway aspect, but I'm meaning traffic.
So the driveways that are proposed that,
Additional
ingress,
turn lane.
Ingress and egress to the site does affect the traffic, of course. The driveway that is proposed to be on North Main Street is proposed to be a right in, right out. It won't be a full driveway where the property owner or visitors to the property cannot take a left and head north from the property on Main Street. But the driveway on Zach Lynn's Parkway will be a full driveway.
If somebody's driving north on 87 and they want to access this property, they're going to need to turn on Zach Lynn's and then turn in? Because otherwise that's going to be a mess.
Right.
Oh, definitely.
I believe the driveway, the TxDOT permit does, I believe, limit them to a right in, right out only on 87.
And so TxDOT has, correct, already reviewed this and it's gone through formal procedures there with regards to any sort of variances or anything that would have been required? Okay.
And the driveway process is a separate approval process from the plating process.
Any other discussion?
They own that entire strip, right?
No, sir. The property or the applicant for the Texan and the property owner for the Texan purchased this 5.90 acres from the property owner that owns the remainder.
So
of the
the
tract.
rest with a for sale sign is still for sale then?
Yes.
That strip, okay.
Yeah, I think it goes all the way.
The
Over
little
here.
house.
Yeah,
is
that
there.
little bitty house.
Okay.
And this is a preliminary plat and a final plat, so we will need a public hearing for the preliminary plat.
Right. I have a motion.
Make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
All right. Any discussion further? All in favor?
Preliminary plat.
Wait,
Open the public hearing for the
Oh,
preliminary plat.
Sorry. Yes. Anybody have any discussion from the public? None? All right. Then the motion and second.
Is the motion for the preliminary plat or both the preliminary plat and the final plat?
Both.
Say both.
Both.
Okay.
All right. Yeah,
I'll
Mr.
make a
Robinson.
motion.
yes. Any further discussion? Second. Mary Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2?
Okay, the next action item is something a little out of the ordinary. It is a variance request for 1607 Carville, and the applicant is requesting a variance to city code for to the regulation that he must subdivide the property. As far as our research can tell, this property was developed in the early 80s after it had been annexed to the city. But we're unsure of how it was developed with the manufactured home. Our records don't go back that far. So it was developed with a manufactured home, but it has never been legally subdivided. The property owner accesses the property through a private drive or access easement that has been named, but it is private. It is not a public right-of-way, and that's Carville. And the property is served with a water well and a septic tank. The property owner and all adjoining properties along Carville Street long have issues with being able to subdivide their property because the owner that controls Carville Street has no wishes to make it a public street or public access. And so the applicant is requesting a variance to the subdivision ordinance so that he can replace the manufactured home that was currently existing on the site because it was heavily damaged during the hurricane. Staff does recommend approval of this because it's just making this gentleman whole. Normally, we don't recommend that properties be developed that aren't on a subdivision plat, but since this property already has the access and is already developed with the water well and the septic tank that can be reused, we do feel that there's a special circumstance, and so we do recommend approval of this variance.
Can I ask a question? I was just curious because there's 2 stipulations here. So with respect to the water well, I know it says the health department reviewed the septic system. Is there any kind of review on the water well?
Yes, there is,
That's-
I believe, an annual
it's
permitting.
both?
Right. We
Okay.
don't believe there to be any issues with reusing either.
And it's on an acre too, so that makes it a little bit better. It's not a small tract of land.
Half an acre, yeah.
Okay. Anybody from the public wishing to comment? Yes, sir. If you would approach and give your name and address, please.
Rodriguez, 2207 E North Street in Victoria. I'm the owner of the acre next to the property, and I also have a water well, a septic tank, and a light post and a gas line on the property. And I bought it 2 years ago, and it was a house there that got burned up, and I wanted it to place another house or something in there, and I never been able to do it because they say because I don't have no public services. So I'm just wondering, are they gonna allow him to do it and they're not gonna allow me to do it? I'm just curious about it. Because the septic tank is there, the water well is there, the electricity is there, everything is there, and it's 1 acre, and he has half an acre, and I have 1 acre, and we're next to each other. I was just wondering why he can do it and I can't.
Go ahead if you
I'm-
want.
I'm
I was
definitely-
gonna,
I can't actually speak for the city in this regard, but did you ever submit like a formal variance application?
I went to the city and they denied it, and they said that they were gonna deny anything I tried to do because it's just on a public. It's not on a public road, and I don't have no access to city water nor sewage or nothing like that. But I told them, the septic tank is there, the water well is there, everything is there. I just wanted to build a small house, and because I can't do nothing with it. I mean, lately I abandoned it because I really don't have no use for it. And I was just wondering if I can plot it and, use it. I mean, it'll be better for everybody, I'm thinking, because, I mean, I can't use it for anything else. They told
But you would use it for your personal home?
Yes.
Okay.
Julie, is there any difference between a constructed home and a manufactured home, I guess?
But
Or a fire and a hurricane?
The concrete slab from the house that was there is still there on the property. And I was just going to build a house on top of it because
I
the house that
understand.
burned up had a concrete slab. And that's what I wanted to do. Or I wanted to put a small, mobile home in there Because it's 1 acre, and like I said, it's a whole 1 acre. It's right next to his place.
Yes, sir.
So that's what I was wondering, if there's anything I can do to use the property, because I'm just paying taxes for no reason. I really can't use it for nothing else because they didn't allow me to do it. And I told them because when I bought it, I went to the county and the county told me it was good to go. That's why I purchased it. And when I went to get the permit, they told me it wasn't good because it wasn't plotted before 1957.
Julie, can you weigh in on this at all? Do you mind? Am I allowed to do that?
Yes.
I don't have specific history on this case, but I think the difference here is we do regularly receive people in our office asking about the different tracks along Carville because they do change hands quite frequently because it is a difficult situation with the owner of the road not being the same owner of any of the tracks that front it. And so if the tract hasn't ever been developed, we always tell the applicant that we're not going to recommend approval because there's a reason we require, public water and septic or sanitary sewer and for properties to be represented on a subdivision plat to make sure that the property is suitable for development. And when you get a large density of properties that have the water wells and the septics and on an unpaved road, it can lead to substandard conditions.
But theoretically,
He could theoretically apply for a variance, and I think generally the reason we are agreeable to recommending approval in this case is because of the hurricane. We've sort of relaxed a lot of our general policies and regulations and things because it's a natural disaster and helping people recover versus more of a planned sort of development process. Nobody can plan for a natural disaster.
Okay, so sir, it sounds like you could apply for a variance and staff may or may not recommend it, but it would come to the planning commission. So, if you wanted a jury of your
Well, and it
peers to
sounds
weigh
like
in.
the property in question had been developed. If it was a home there
yes.
and it had burned down, I mean,
I don't have that.
kind of what's the difference between a hurricane and a fire? I mean, if it had already been developed and has the well and everything, I mean, I would look favorably on a variance.
We would research all of that for y'all if there were a variance.
You do have
apply for.
options, sir. You do have options, it sounds like. You could apply for a variance, so.
All right, thank you, sir. Sure. You would give us your name and number, please?
My name is Mark.
Address?
Mark Garcia. I'm the one that lives at the Carville Road that we're discussing at the moment. I've been looking at different suitable homes that I can put in there, other mobile homes and everything. And one thing that I've been really interested in is like tiny home living. And one of the things that I've seen and looked into was shipping containers. I don't know if y'all have looked into those, but there's a lot of other cities that have been helping people out and moving shipping containers and people either buying fully furnished or putting them there and building it themselves. And I've looked into different companies in Houston and San Antonio that provide both fully developed as well as just a shipping container themselves. And considering that my trailer got destroyed, and I really didn't get much help from FEMA, but I did get some, so I am thankful on that. I'm looking at just different varieties of options, and that was one of them that came up and wanted to express that to y'all to see if that would be, feasible.
It's not, Julie, because the way it's worded here, it's just replacement by a manufactured home of similar size, so
Okay.
I'm not sure how much latitude there is in that.
Shipping containers do not meet any sort of the International Building Code or the residential code, and therefore we do not allow them within the city. If we were to allow them, that would go to a different board. It would go to the Construction Board of Appeals to consider that because it would be variances to our adopted building codes. we've done a lot of research because we get asked this question about shipping containers quite frequently. And to date, I've yet to find a city that actually does allow them, but you do find them quite often in unincorporated areas throughout the state. But no city has yet, that to my knowledge, in the state of Texas, has allowed them because they are a substandard style of building that does not meet the adopted building codes.
Okay, makes sense. Thank
So
you.
let me just, is it a manufactured home or nothing
Yes.
based on
Yes.
this?
I guess you could open it up to doing a site-built home, but if we're talking about costs, then we've just,
Well, I'm
Increased
not
it.
sure. He referenced a tiny home, so I mean,
it would have to be a home that meets either HUD code or the building codes. So a manufactured home meets the adopted HUD codes, or a site-built home meets the international building codes.
Okay,
so there you go. If we do it for him, yeah, we can't tell one person no and one person yes.
I have no problem
I don't either.
allowing the variance.
I would move that we grant the variance with the recommendations that staff has included.
Right.
have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Down to other business.
Before we get to the monthly development report, I would just like to introduce our new planning manager, Alina Phillips.
Good to meet you.
You know, with-
Welcome aboard.
Jared's retirement and my promotion, we did a little bit of a reorganization. So we still have the planner position vacant, and hopefully we'll have that filled shortly. But Alina will be managing our current planning, our long-range planning, our MPO, and our CDBG activities within the department. So I'm very excited to have her on board. She joins us from
Congratulations.
Columbus, Georgia.
Welcome.
The last item is our Development Services Monthly Development Report, and you can see from the screen that our numbers have substantially increased over last year, and we can thank the hurricane for that. We did approximately 12 million in valuation for the month of November, with 1,100 permits, and then permit fees collected are quite a bit more than the previous year. As far as activity, we had one minor plat, Cantu Estates, that was approved, and then the commission just reviewed the Texan Subdivision, which was a major plat.
Good deal. Anything from planning? Any
At the-
comments,
At the risk
questions?
of stirring up a hornet's nest,
Uh-oh.
prior to the hurricane, I was always kind of aware of fencing in the city. And now that everybody's getting a new fence, half of which have the public side facing the property, is there ever any talk about fencing ordinances that would improve the appearance of the city by having the public side face the public?
The public side.
The nice side?
Oh,
Nice side, so
okay.
you're not
The
looking
smooth
at the-
side.
Okay.
Typically, you find
The
those
skeleton.
regulations in the deed restrictions, but I don't know that it's ever come up before.
So if you drive down Guy Grant, the original homes were built with the public side out, and now the homeowners, they want to see the nice side, so they put the nice side in. You don't see that like in Colony Creek, because I'm sure it's restricted, but elsewhere in the city, it's becoming very unattractive as you drive around and see more and more of that, but I don't know.
And I'm always intrigued they want that side in, because I would just want the opposite, because it's easier to jump the fence with the 2x4s out there if somebody's gonna break in or whatever.
They might
That's
have a
true.
3-year-old like I do.
Interesting. Where would that originate if something like
Yeah.
that were to?
It's a good idea.
We could bring back a draft ordinance if there's a consensus among the commission that that's what y'all would like to see.
Probably wouldn't be very popular, but
Not
I was
about
gonna say, I
popular.
think you'd get a little bit of opposition to that, but
Don't run for Congress.
no plans.
All righty. Well, Julie will fix that for us.
I might be interested in hearing if other communities have rules like that. I know previously you guys have done, I'm not trying to just add to your crazy workload, but I know sometimes you've put together little memos and informational things for us. I would be interested to see if that's something that other communities do require, like outside of deed restrictions.
A lot of
I
other
think
cities
Julie's
have
probably
master
right.
plan.
Mostly it's probably in
Yeah.
deed restrictions in
Yeah.
terms of the
Yeah, we don't have
subdivision.
the master plan communities that most
Yeah.
other cities
Yeah.
have, so.
Oh, well.
Therefore, Colony Creek will have, you know,
Right.
and the rest of the city won't. Or similar neighborhoods, but,
I think even Woodway
yeah,
has it in their restrictions.
Interesting.
yeah. There'd be many grandfathered ones if we were to do that, but
Until the next hurricane. Fingers crossed that that never happens.
No, we don't need any more.
Yeah.
All right. Anything? Well, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Same here.
Christmas.
All righty. Thank
Merry
you
and
for a
safe
wonderful
Christmas.
2017. Everybody, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't leave, you got to sign.